Hello and welcome to this writing session. Our title is Exposition, and we're going to focus on comparison and contrast essay. Our school's vision is learn today, lead tomorrow. And the title of our lesson is Comparison and Contrast Essay. The objectives of our lesson are to define the comparison and contrast essay and recognize the steps of writing an essay, and then proofread and revise our writing. This is chapter 6, Exposition. Exposition means it's something that we write to explain an idea or theory, and we're going to focus on comparison and contrast essay. The Venn diagram, this is the Venn diagram that we have seen many times before. Here we have two circles on the edges of the on the edges of the circles we're going to write the differences to contrast the differences. Here in this spot, the differences on the edges of the two circles, and in the middle we are going to compare and write the similarities between the two objects or the two subjects that we are comparing. What is a comparison and contrast essay? It uses factual details, facts, to analyze the similarities and differences between two or more persons, places, or things. Comparison and contrast essays include a topic involving two or more things that are similar in some ways and different in other ways. An organized presentation of details. This is very important. You have to be organized while you present your ideas because you are comparing two things. So there are so many details. Some of them could be similar from the two sides, and the other details are so different, so you have to be organized, or the reader will not be able to follow what you're writing about. So an organized presentation of details that illustrate similarities and differences to learn the criteria on which your comparison and contrast essay may be graded or judged. That's why we're going to talk about the rubric next session. Here, this is very simple comparison and contrast Venn diagram. Here we are only writing the brainstorming about main ideas that come to your mind. You should write, this is called brainstorming. You just write whatever idea comes to your mind. Here the writer here is comparing between two types of dogs.
It's about compare and contrast. This is an essay that evaluates the similarities and differences between two subjects. For example, whales and dolphins, healthy food and junk food. You can even compare two different characters from two different stories. So all you have to do is to write how they are alike and how they are different. So let's get started. Now the first step is to brainstorm your ideas, because this is going to encourage you to come up with different thoughts and ideas. And the best way to do so is to draw a Venn diagram. Draw two overlapping circles, one for each of the subjects that you're comparing. Write the differences in the edges of the circles and the similarities in the overlapping space. This is a great way to organize your thoughts. For example, here is a Venn diagram that compares and contrasts traditional learning and online learning. They both require great amount of work. You can receive feedback in both environments, and teacher is the presenter and uses same methods and techniques. Now in traditional learning, students study in the classroom. They use arts and crafts, discuss different issues, and the teacher can be easily distracted by a disruptive behavior. While in online learning, there's no face-to-face contact, it is teacher-centered, and students use applications, and program. Now that your brainstorm sheet is ready, it is time to write the introduction. The introduction provides the first impression. A good introduction can hook the reader, so you can ask a question that grabs the reader's attention. For example, have you ever tried online learning? Do you know that distance learning and traditional learning share things in common? Yet, they're different in so many ways. Now look at the space that I left at the beginning of my paragraph. This is called indent, and you leave it at the beginning of each paragraph. Look at the word share things in common and different. These words indicate that my writing is going to compare and contrast, so make sure to include similar words in your introduction. Now it is your turn to think about two subjects, brainstorm your ideas, then write your introduction. If you're done, watch my other video that discuss how to write the details.
Let's take a look at the types of comparison and contrast essays. The first type here is you see a product comparison, which looks at two or more products and examines the advantages and disadvantages of purchasing each day that you are comparing and contrasting two goods, two things to buy. Okay, the other type here, a comparison of literary works, and this is very important because when we read novels or stories, sometimes we are asked to write a review or to write an essay about the similarities and differences. Just like here, looks at the similarities and differences among any number of elements, like the story elements, the characters, the setting, and so on, of two works of literature. So let's practice writing. Here, this is one of the topics that we're going to discuss and write about in our virtual class today: winter vacation versus summer vacation. I want you to start with collecting information and ideas about these topics, if you need to, of course, and draw a simple Venn diagram, and then brainstorm your ideas and write them down in this Venn diagram, and then start writing your introduction. Here, your is not very well. Okay, thank you so much. See you in our virtual class. Goodbye.